It was a quiet spring evening on April 25th, 1973, in the small, unassuming town of Enfield, Illinois. The sun had set hours ago, leaving a cool darkness draped over the streets. Families settled into their nightly routines, some watching TV, others reading, and children drifting off to sleep. But for Henry McDaniel, a simple night at home would soon spiral into a story that still captivates and chills to this day: the legend of the Enfield Monster. Henry McDaniel was relaxing at home when his peaceful evening was interrupted by a loud knocking sound on his front door. The noise was strange, 3 distinct knocks, deliberate and heavy, as though the visitor was no ordinary passerby. Initially, McDaniel brushed it off as a prank. After all, in a small town like Enfield, mischievous kids looking for laughs weren't uncommon. But when the knocking came again, louder this time, a strange sense of unease washed over him. Arming himself with a flashlight and a pistol, just in case, McDaniel cautiously approached the door and swung it open. What he saw next would haunt him for the rest of his life. Standing before him, illuminated by his porch light, was a creature like nothing he had ever seen. It was around 4 to 5 feet tall, with a grotesque, otherworldly appearance. Its skin was a slick grayish color, almost slimy in texture, and its bulging, glowing pink eyes stared directly at him. But the most bizarre detail of all was its 3 legs, which seemed to propel its body forward in an unnatural, hopping motion. As McDaniel stared, frozen in disbelief, the creature emitted a piercing, blood-curdling screech, a sound that seemed to vibrate deep into his bones. Summoning his courage, he fired several shots at it. McDaniel swore he hit the creature at least once, but instead of falling, it bounded away at incredible speed, vanishing into the darkness. What McDaniel didn't know at the time was that earlier that same evening, a local boy named Greg Garrett had an encounter of his own. While playing in his backyard, Greg claimed he had seen the same creature approach him. It didn't attack him directly, but it stepped on his shoes with its clawed feet, tearing them apart as though they were paper. Terrified, Greg fled into his house, refusing to go outside again that night. The boy's account, when paired with McDaniel's experience, gave weight to the idea that something unexplainable was stalking the town. News of McDaniel's encounter spread quickly, igniting both curiosity and fear throughout Enfield. Reporters from nearby towns flocked to the area, eager to interview McDaniel and others who claimed to have heard strange noises or seen the creature. The police were called to investigate, and though they found no hard evidence, they didn't dismiss McDaniel's story outright. A group of hunters armed with rifles and flashlights combed the area near McDaniel's house, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creature or find tracks. They discovered unusual footprints near McDaniel's property, measuring about 4 inches wide. The tracks seemed to suggest that the creature walked or hopped on 3 legs, just as McDaniel described. For days, people gathered in small groups to search the area, but the creature remained elusive. While the sightings terrified some, others dismissed the story as nonsense. Skeptics suggested that the so-called Enfield Monster was nothing more than a case of mistaken identity. A local farmer reportedly owned a kangaroo, and some believed it might have escaped and wandered into town. McDaniel, however, was adamant that what he saw was no kangaroo. But while the theories swirled, the creature itself remained a mystery. In the weeks following the sightings, the story of the Enfield Monster captured national attention. Radio stations and newspapers covered the strange events, turning Enfield into a hotbed of speculation. A local radio station even offered a reward for the creature's capture, fueling further excitement and chaos. As more people ventured out at night in search of the creature, the situation grew tense. Police warned thrill-seekers to stay away from private property and refrain from firing weapons, as the growing crowds increased the risk of accidental injuries. Eventually, the hype died down and the sightings stopped. But for McDaniel and others who had witnessed the creature or heard its haunting screeches, the memories never faded. To this day, the Enfield Monster remains one of Illinois' most intriguing cryptid stories. Was it a hoax, a case of mass hysteria, or something truly unexplained? Cryptozoologists and paranormal enthusiasts continue to debate the creature's origins. while skeptics dismiss it as little more than an elaborate tall tale. Henry McDaniel never wavered in his account. He went to his grave insisting that what he saw was real, not a figment of his imagination. His sincerity, combined with the corroborating accounts from Greg Garrett and others, leaves the door open for speculation. The footprints, the screeches, the sheer strangeness of the creature's appearance. It all adds up to a puzzle with no clear solution. Perhaps the Enfield Monster was a creature not of this world. Or perhaps it was a misunderstood animal that will never be seen again.